title of the song is Entering the Course. Now for the talk. One of the most important ones that we will ever have. Let us start from the root. You are the holder of light. That means inside of you there is fire, because there can never be light without fire. Sun, you are what drives and moves things on the planet forward, making all things in the dark come to light. There is one very special way that a man makes this happen. Yes, a man. We are working towards your manhood. You cannot be a boy forever. As a man, one day you'll join in love with a woman. She is the keeper of a beautiful black darkness that lives in the water inside of her. Through her, you will bring all things you think in the dark into the light. One day, you will have the ability to create seeds of light. And these seeds, when used the right way, will give you the power to live forever. Eternal life. I'm talking about sex. Sex is what happens between a man and a woman. Woman and man. Male and female. Female and male. Got it? It's called intercourse because man enters the course of the woman whom he loves and honors. As a boy, now you do not have the ability, skill, or the right to enter the course. One day when you are full in your manhood, you will create the world all over again through your woman. She is heaven. You are the sun that shines through heaven and earth. When you see an ankh, see and know the sacred responsibility and power of entering the course of a woman. Son, the woman you enter the course with must be very, very special. Because after you enter into her and she receives you in love, you two will be connected forever. Every woman you join with will be with you and you with her forever. So my light, choose wisely. When you enter the course, it is to recreate the best part of you and her. You hold the power of life. She holds the power of life, death, and transformation. So my light, choose your woman wisely. Your staff, penis, and divine rod can bring you happy, spiritually deep, peaceful offspring who will make you live forever. Or, if you choose, for the wrong reasons, life can change in a way that will bring death to you and your ideas will wither. So my light, choose your woman wisely. You are the number one. She is the number 0. ʻ'thir-ik, the staff and womb. Together, you'll make 10. 1 plus 0 takes us right back to 1 again. The 1 is light, the 0 is dark. You together, you'll get 1 again, light. So my light, choose your woman wisely, because you are the light that we need to always shine so that our people will live forever. Choose wisely, my son.
on it. Sorry about it. Greetings. Another unfinished track that I forgot to fade out. I'm sitting there doing other stuff, saying, "Oh, when it fades out, I'll come in," and no fade. Anyway, peace, everyone. Peace, everyone. Welcome to Community in the Midday, and for all of you who are coming in brand new, welcome. You're welcome. And for all of you who are tuning in, of course, from the archives, you're also welcome. Whenever you can come through, especially those who kind of fly in and out. Sometimes people have different things going on in their lives, and they catch when they catch. It's kind of like, I remember one time talking to a guy I know who owns a restaurant. And at one point, I was going in that restaurant like every day. And I went in there like maybe a month later, and he was like, "Hey, man, where you been? I haven't seen you." I said, "What, you think I'm supposed to eat here every day? Like you're basing your economy around me now?" You know. But so I understand people flying in and out, and I appreciate it. All the same. But I especially appreciate those who are steadfast. Those who are steadfast. So, welcome all, and Akbato for all those who know what that means. And yeah, it's a glorious time, man. So anyway, last night, we were dealing on the value of nine, and kind of getting into some Kabbalah talk, and some other talk as well. But you know, yesterday was a 9 day, and of course, we were closing out conversations, surrounding power. Closing that idea out, and I think we had a good talk, and kind of getting to the value of recognizing subtle law that exists underneath all things. And nine actually represents that. I'm not going to get back into nine, but I thought about it after I got off, because there was so much going on last night. I just had to pretty much give what was given, in terms of what was being channeled. And because I was a bit distracted by, there was some tech issues, and then the lights were going out, and some other things were happening because it was a storm. But that any number that you add up can equate to nine. Nine being, again, that highest number. So you can use all ones to get to a nine, or all threes, or four and a combination of some other number, but or six and a combination of another number, but you can use anything to get to a nine, in terms of adding on. And that's an important thing to think about in terms of the symbolism of nine. I didn't really get into that yesterday, but it lets you know that nine represents, and nine, it gives us a value of an original idea, again, always coming back to it, and the original place that the astral realms want to be, or that the astral forms aim to be, which is one of the reasons why it represents the subtle form, that number nine. It's the quiet trinity, even because when you create nine in terms of your scripting, you're writing it, you can create nine using three equilateral triangles, you just kind of interlace them. But I'll get into that when I teach the number class at some point. I'm not sure when I'm going to do it. It's pretty much when the spirit moves me. I haven't felt like it. And like I said, doing it on air, I don't think it would do it justice, because I really would like to get into it, because I've never really seen anybody teach it at depth, the actual origin of numbers, and the metaphysics of number, aside from number one represents this, number two represents that. But even when you hear that, you don't, most time they don't tell you why. I mean, of course, someone could say two represents duality. Okay, that's kind of easy to figure out. One represents being alone. All right, that's easy to figure out. But in terms of really looking at those numbers, and understanding and learning who created them and why they were created, and how they relate even to the alphabet and those relationships. You know, that's a bigger class. That would, you know, be a much longer show, and that's not something I would necessarily just want to throw into a show. You know, sometimes when you just put things into segments like this, the importance is lost on folks. You know, the importance of what's being taught is lost because they're saying, "Oh, well, it's, you know, it's just a little free thing on YouTube. It can't really be can't really be too important. You know, I can skip this." So sometimes it's better to call it a class or put it in class form so people see, no, it's serious. I mean, of course, all of these things are, but you know, people take them how they will. But yeah, 9 represents, again, that subtle or that vital force, that subtle energy. And you know, when you're dealing with subtle energy, you're dealing with all this spirit stuff. So that's why one of the reasons why 9 becomes such a powerhouse in terms of the analogies that are created between, you know, the number 9 and that idea. Um, Even 9 often relates to moon energy as well. So, you know, whenever you're dealing with the moon, you're dealing with magic, essentially, because you know, you're dealing with the influence there that 9 has uh, on the moon. You know, so yeah, I just wanted to throw that in. You know, in terms of that particular number, you know, because as you see these numbers even pop up in our ʻther tradition, they say, well, this one's a number for that one, that one's a number for that one. I know often it's not really asked why. You know, who was the first person to say, okay, 5 is Oshun's number, you know, or 4 or 6 can be applied to Shango, or 3 or to 21 to you know, Eshu, and so forth and so on, you know. 7 to Yemonja, 9 to Oya. I don't go through all of them, but you get my point. If you understand the guiding and originating concepts and laws that brought about the phenomenon or the archetypes of numbers, because numbers are archetypes, then it will help you to understand how and why those particular ones are connected with some of the greatest evolutionary forces that we study. Why we'll say this one is this number, that one is that number. You'll start to see the astral and the material and the practical and the mental and the akashic relationships between you know, that highest level of illumination that's been lavished upon these particular archetypes that these law cognitions have created, and the profound truths that have been created by them, you know. But you know, I told you we're going to freestyle a little bit because we got 2 days to do what we want. Oh, come on, man. As soon as I start something. 1 second, let me make sure this is okay. 1 second, I'm sorry, everybody. Give someone some. I have to give someone some health guidance real quick. They're in pain. Um, okay. All right. We already start with interruptions. I'm not gonna put it on mute because they may still need me. But yeah. Anyway, like I told you, you know, we had some space to kind of flow a little bit, you know, in terms of meeting up to this month's topic, which is the solstice, which I'm really looking forward to getting into, you know, that solstice vibration. So, you know, just gonna kind of flow a little bit. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat room. You know, let's see here. Bring my chat up so I can actually see your questions. All right, there we go. Yeah, man. So if you have any questions, feel free to add them. You know, and either way, you know, I'm gonna flow on some ideas that have been bouncing around in my head, like what I just shared. So one of the things that I had spoke about last night, in terms of nine, I was giving you the idea of truth and how truth represents itself, a lot of times in tradition, as static in a sense and never changing. And when I tell you to not always associate one thing with another, there's several reasons for it, and I'm gonna explain why. Because like you've heard me say plenty of times that truth is dynamic. So truth is not necessarily truth is infinite, but it's an infinite dynamism. So it's not necessary that 1 + 1 will always equal 2, or that one measure of a second will always be one measure of a second. As we have all experienced the okay, all right. I got I got some little fires I'm putting out while I'm talking. But we have all experienced time speed up and slow down and things like that. And sometimes we think it's just us, and we say no, that couldn't be, because 1 minute is always going to be 1 minute. 1 minute is always going to be 60 seconds, and 60 seconds is always going to transpire in the time that we're told that it does transpire. But as the earth is moving and shaping and forming and getting older, um, you know, its perception and its allegiance to certain things are changing as well. So it's very similar to, at one point when you were younger, your hardest or your strongest was one thing, but as you grew and your muscle mass changed, your strongest became a different thing, you see. But you're still giving the same amount of force perhaps, or the same amount of effort, but it just means something else now, because things change and things grow and things morph. So it's no different when we're looking at the influences that evolution has on concepts like time, or the influences that evolution has on concepts like truth. So when you're studying, that's what I say, you always don't want to be quick to make one thing another thing, because you lose the mind of the person teaching or lose the mind of the person talking. So what I mean by that is, someone saying, okay, well, we established this nine, and like for instance in Freemasonry, we established this nine as saying, okay, well, this is the number of the immortal man. That's what they call it, because the immortal man is founded on a square of truth, and truth is unchanging, will always be and always has been. So therefore, um, learning the truth or having the truth being indwelling will bring immortality, right? Because it doesn't change, so there's really a static aspect there, where it's looked at and it says, okay, well, one is able to initiate into the language, into the intellect, and to the interpretation, and even the symbolism and the training of the truth, whether it be through hermetics, or whether it be through learning cosmology, or spirituality. But either way, learning those paths will now allow that initiate to live forever. But in certain systems, truth is considered to be static. So therefore, that becomes a true statement depending on that system. But if you hear someone like me say, well, no, truth is alive. So anything that's alive transforms, it changes. So truth changes, you know. So and I'm not speaking about facts, it's a distinct difference, but truth does change. So now it allows you to sit outside of the wisdom of maybe some of those teachers, or those teachings, and really look beyond what's being said, because there may be some little off points, and even some of the wisdom that's passed down from our ancient sages. You may look at the metaphorical language, or the symbolic style of the language that's being given to you, but you're able to sit back and say, what is the true root, the core of the statement? You see, what is the core of the statement? So like when you hear me say, yeah, any number you multiply by 9, it's gonna, you add it up the equation, it's gonna add up to 9. So 9 represents that original intention that always has been. So we can apply that metaphorically, or even symbolically, to the astral realms, or the mental realms, or the material realms, or the physical realm, and say, okay, this is 9 represents what was always intended to begin with, but it's the realization of what was always intended. Like sometimes when you hear me say, Yes, you may not be developed, but when I speak to you, I see where you're going. I don't necessarily respond to you and deal with you where you're at today, because that's ever changing. You see, so I respect your growth and your passage, and I may even use certain analogies and certain language to speak to that place that you're headed to. You see, so there's a confirmation of a successful journey even in that type of language, right? But that's because I'm always looking at the 9. Now, you may be on step 2, you may be on step 3, you may be trying to achieve your step 5, but I'm blind. I mean, I'm aware of your steps, but I'm blind a little bit to um, the immediate. And I'm thinking, no, this person is going to be this. And when they finish going through the required um, um, development, and they continue to pass through their different aspects of spirit and their different aspects of their worlds, then they'll develop, or they'll unleash in certain powers and faculties, and I can see them in their unleashed state, we could say, of those particular powers and faculties, right? So that's kind of being in touch with the 9, being in tune with that 9 vibration, where you're always looking at what's going to be, right? So some would say that, well, what's going to be is predestined and predetermined. So there would be a static aspect to that. But no, because when you learn to really, when you really truly develop, that's when you're able to actually change the actualized state of something. That's when you're really actually able to not only define truth, but change the truth. You see, so when you're able to connect with something at its true core, it's almost like a person who needs a certain level of spiritual healing, but at a deep level. Some of their deeper levels of spirit, which are maybe very closely in neighboring their deity accordance, and it's so close to the deity accordance, or what we may call the reflection of their soul, that this deep spiritual pain is causing them not to be able to get into the practical aspects of what it is that they need to do. It causes them to, from a divine and from a universal perspective, it causes them not to really be able to apply the formulas that are in front of them. So you start working with them and you learn their different levels, and you learn to put your consciousness inside of theirs at various levels and various levels and various levels, till you get real close to the cut, you see, or you get right into that microscopic cut. You're in it, you know. So you begin to almost heal them from the inside out, you see. So that's a form of like being in that space where a person may see you at the 9, may see you at your closing, may see you at your conclusion, and says, I'm going to work from that place, I'm going to work from there. But because I've gotten to know you at your closest connections to your truth, because we all are a truth. That's why ultimately inside it's the same thing pumping inside of all of us, whether we say it's Ori or will or soul, but it's that truth, right? That then builds itself outwards from there, through sound and through vibration, but it builds its world from there, and it makes use of we say word in order to create, by means of the world and out of itself. You see, so it's like if you can get to that space before the world, or the mind before I'm sorry, not the world, the word, the mind before the word, before a word is uttered, there's a thought. Before there's a thought, there's a spiritual inkling. If you can get into that space, then essentially you can change the truth of something. So we may look at a stone or a river, or a mountain or a tree, and we can materialize the divinity of that stone or mountain and tree, and we can only associate ourselves with the material divinity of it, or we can remember that tree materialized itself using word, using sound. So if we recognize that all things have the ability to materialize themselves based on universal law, whether it materializes itself from a soul perspective or from a spiritual perspective, because there is a ranking in that sense. we can go underneath the material manifestation. We can go under that. Once we go under that, now we're closer to the truth of that thing. And then we can go in and start shifting things around if we have said authority to do so. So in essence, you're changing the truth. So you may look at certain traditions and they'll say, well, truth is static and 9 is truth, it's no immortal man. Well, you just gotta, it's it's like an issue of respect at that point. You have to kind of look at different systems and different religious systems and even different sciences, and that's why I say it's so important to understand the dispensations of things. It's important to understand who's talking. Even what language are they speaking in? What's their cultural perspective? Who are they speaking to? What time period is it? So you're not just taking fragmented pieces of information and trying to piece them together to other traditions and making this Frankenstein of a system. You want to go into the truth of that system inside out. That's the key. Go to the truth inside out. Because if you don't, you'll be floating and swimming around in a pool of contradictory statements, contradictory information. So if you study Freemasonry and say, okay, well, when they apply the 9 to the immortal man, when did they start doing that? Where did they get the concepts and ideas of Freemasonry from? Did they understand what they got? Did they understand what they stole or what they borrowed or what they discovered? Did they have an understanding of that? Or are they making stuff up? There's nothing wrong with looking at these systems with that level of scrutiny, but in order to engage them at that level, man, you have to get to the truth. Stop just letting things being thrown at you like numerology. Well, or I hear people talk about their zodiacs. Well, I'm a Cancer, so da, 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 da. No, I don't know. Do you know? Like, what is a Cancer? Let's get to that first. Don't tell me what the book said. Have you tapped and touched the truth of it? I know it's hot. I know it's burning. I know it's hard to get to that truth, but have you touched upon that? Or are you just regurgitating public information? You see. All right, I see a question in the chat. Kyria CEO says, greetings, Chief, and everyone in the chat room, exclamation mark. Greetings back to you, Kyria, exclamation mark. Back at you. My name is pronounced Kira. Shakira. I like Shakira better. I have 2 questions. 1, why do you recommend not using banks? 2, is what she asking, is Obeah part of ʻthir? When did I recommend? Give me the context of when I recommended not using banks. Because I don't remember when I said that. I may have said it. I don't know, but I don't remember when I said it or what I was actually saying. What the context of that was. And 2B, this is a 2B question. Okay. Or where does Obeah rank in ʻthir? Okay, this is a prime example of, and you can give me the context of the first question. I'll answer 2 and then come back to 1. This is a prime example of trying to make one thing another thing. Right now, of course, you have Obeah in Jamaica, right? And a lot of people know that Jamaicans genetically are Nigerians, so you have this concept of Obeah, and which is basically very similar to North American hoodoo traditions. So when you're dealing with Obeah, you're dealing with techniques. You're not necessarily dealing with a spiritual system like ʻthir. You're dealing with different techniques to get things done. So basically, essentially, it's a form of disassociated magic. Because with Obeah, you can still be a Christian or a Muslim or whatever and still practice Obeah, just like you can be all those things and still be a hoodoo worker. So Obeah would be more connected to hoodoo. And in terms of its relationship to ʻthir, I mean, you have the term Obi that we're using. You have Obeah, but usually with Obeah, we'll say Obeah man or Obeah woman, like almost like a hoodoo man or hoodoo woman. Someone who practices Obeah. We name it like it's a tradition, and it has become a tradition in the islands, Obeah, but it's not necessarily a full cultural and religious tradition. It's more so a way of doing things. So it's not really a part of ʻthir. And as far as where does it rank in ʻthir, it's not a part of ʻthir. So, you know, no ranking there. You can give me the background to your first question though, in terms of me saying, or your question was, why do you recommend not using banks? All right, now Hassan Rodriguez says, so can you explain how ether is what the gods breathe? What do you mean explain it? Come back to me on that. What do you mean explain it? Explain what part of it. Okay, I'm going to ask you, and be prepared to answer several questions, Hassan Rodriguez. I might ask you a question after that. Okay. Vivid Eye Publications. See, I know what you're used to, calling in, trying to make me work. If you ask a question, I'm gonna make you work too. We're gonna work together. We're gonna do it. We're gonna answer it together. Okay. You'll have a better understanding that way. Trust me. All right. Vivid Eye Publication says, interesting. Is interpretation a form of changing truth? And does that actually change the vibration / frequency of a force? No, interpretation is not a form of changing truth. Interpretation is a form of, there we go. Oh man, Charalambos took the next question I was going to throw at Hassan. And Charalambos asked, what is ether? Right. I was going to make sure Hassan even knew what ether is before I got it. And then, you know, my second question, or my third, that would have been my third question. My third question was going to be, what are the gods? You know what I'm going to do if you ask me a question. I'm going to make sure that you know every term in the question that you're bringing up before I answer it. So, you know, you got two questions on you, brother. When you say, so how can you explain? So can you explain how ether is what the gods breathe? I want you to tell me what ether is. And I'm going to tell you now, I'll throw it out there. I want you to also tell me what the gods are. Considering spiritual archetypes don't technically breathe anything. So obviously, if you've heard me say that, which I think you probably heard me say last night, I'm speaking metaphorically. But we'll get back to that. I want you to answer those questions first. Now back to Vivid Eye. Is interpretation a form of changing truth? No, interpretation is a form of discovering facts. Interpretation is a form of processing what has already been manifested and defined. But once something has been manifested, once something has been defined, it's no longer truth anymore anyway. You see, anything that makes itself apparent, that locks itself into a seemingly static form, has escaped or stepped outside of what the truth is. It now has cut off its creative potential. So when you interpret something, what you're doing is you're creating a disposition or an elemental spirit inside of your own psyche based on what you received. So you may hear music and you say, oh man, that music's funky. Or someone may say, no, that music's cool. The other one may say, no, that music's too loud. You know, now you have three different interpretations there. You see, now did you change the actual essence of it? No, because it hits everybody's eardrum differently. That's why when we speak about deities, we speak about gods, it's very tricky language, because everybody's God is different, if we want to use that terminology. Because once I say God, you're thinking something and I'm thinking something else, no matter if we're taught the same exact thing, because we all have our individual relationship with nature. We all have our individual relationship with the environment. So therefore, when you speak about the things that influences, like when we say, I pray to God, and somebody says, what is God? One person may say God is love. Another person may say, well, God is discipline. Another person say God is jealous. God is angry. You see, all based on our psychological projection, we define these particular things. Now, does it change the true essence of that thing? No. Because when we started even using the terminology of God, it's not about the word, it's about the concept. You see, that's what I was talking about last night. Don't get hung up on the words. Go underneath to the concepts and the laws that bring the words about. So the words that we use to describe things are the interpretations, but those interpretations are our personal vehicles. So for instance, you have Vulcan, which is a god of iron, right? But then you have Ogun, who's a god of iron. Those are just two interpretations for iron. because Ogun is not, he doesn't make iron or own iron. He is iron, the element of iron. Now, if you go from a scientific perspective, iron is iron. Like even the word Irene in Yoruba, that's a new word. It's not a word that's always been in the language. It's the word for iron, but they didn't say iron back in the days. They said Ogun. You see, but then as things change, people come into the environment. They begin to take the spiritual, the temple aspects out of certain words, and they then say, okay, well, we'll call it Irene, which is for iron. So what I'm saying is if I call it iron, if I call it Ogun, if I call it Vulcan, if I call it Irene, does it change what the actual essence is of iron? Nope. Those different interpretations that I'm coming up with will just become different spiritual facts. But facts are not permanent. Facts change, they're temporary. Just like your Orisha names, we're still using names that they don't even call themselves anymore. Well, you guys are, I don't. Well, some of you are, maybe some of you know the new names too. Now, and does that actually change this is the second part of his question. And Hassan, man, you got more, where you at, brother? He's probably at work or something. The second part of his question was, and does that actually change the vibration / frequency of a force? Nope. Well, yes, it does in a sense, because remember, the forces is how we interpret it, how it hits us. You see, so there's a bidirectional communication that happens with anything we experience in life. That's why they tell you, when you're doing observational experiments, you actually tamper the experiment the moment, or tamper the subject of the experiment the moment you begin to observe it. You see, so your observation itself is a part of that bidirectional process. It's like being in a room and somebody staring at you, right? And you say, well, I'm not bothering you. You say, but could you stop staring at me? Because you recognize even you just staring at them, it affects them. Or you can feel someone, so it affects your disposition and your mood, right? So essentially it does change the vibration, because the vibration is sent out from the force. It's the vibration of something is not at its essence. At its essence, it sends nothing out. Think of it like a pool of water. At a pool of water, let's just say, left to itself, undisturbed, without intrusion, it's placid, it's still. You throw something in it, now you create frequency of waves. You create waves, and the waves move at a different frequency. You see, and you may stand in that water, and if the waves are moving slow, you may lift your foot up, and lifting your foot up may now change the waves around your body, where now they're moving in faster. So they're moving in faster, so now the frequency has changed. You see, because the frequency is just how often something hits you. That's all it is for frequency. So someone could be punching you in the arm, one punch per minute, or they could punch you one punch every 10 seconds, or one punch every second. Those would be just different frequencies. You see, so the thing is with that, the idea, okay, I see your sign. I got some more for you. The idea of, does your interpretation change the frequency? Yeah, it changes the way that frequency hits you and the relationship that you have with that frequency. You see, or the relationship that you have with that projection. But does it change it at its core? No, it's untouched. We see that when we look at the 42 declarations of Ma'at. I have not, I have not, I have not, I have not, I have not. But this is a person who's interacting and moving through life. So how could they have so many I nots? Because the soul is untouched. The soul moves without judgment. You can't judge the soul, and that's why the soul doesn't even exist on the planet. It's beyond your judgment. It's beyond your interpretation. You can interpret the reflections of the soul as it reflects itself through spirit. And through your interpretations, does it change the vibration of it? Yeah. The vibration as you process it, or how you process it, or how you see it. Absolutely. We can all stand out in the sun, but we're all going to have a different response based on that sun. And we're all going to send a different vibe back to that sun based on how we receive it. You see? Okay. Anwar says, San Rodriguez, from my understanding, ether is akasha. Critically thinking on the plan, ET, We breathe, or on the planet, critically thinking on the planet, we breathe oxygen, and for the soul or light, it does not require anything but darkness. Moreover, akasha slash ether contains past, present, and future. So it's an element that is present in all of what we think is creation. Okay, somewhat. The metaphor, what the gods breathe, represents for me that our souls require this either to manifest or condense in the plane or on the planet and heaven. Okay. Hassan Rodriguez says, I don't understand the symbolic connection between ether, nothingness, prime, first element, emptiness of space, being breathed in by the gods, or aspects of nature, or the higher aspects of self. Okay. All right, let me give you a little more. Well, no. Nope. Let me see. Or breathed in by the gods or aspects of nature of the high. Okay. All right. So you defined everything. I was gonna make you work a little bit more, but you he worked. He defined what ether is. He said nothingness, prime slash first element, emptiness of space. And then he defined the gods as being aspects of nature or the higher aspects of self. Okay, so we're gonna let that ride. We're gonna let you live. All right. So I'll give you some answers there. All right. So ether, right? Each element that we have, each existence, you have to think about the laws of correspondence. Okay. So in the law of correspondence, like we have as above, so below. So everything that we have existing on this plane exists on another plane. Whether we want to look at it above us or besides us or inside us or underneath us, it doesn't really matter, but it exists on another plane. And there's many different descriptions that will be given to you theoretically, with different details, or metaphorically, so you can understand and get hinted to what the philosophical representation is of the microcosm and the macrocosm. Okay, so there's going to be different ways it's going to come at you in that sense. Now, if we look at, okay, like you said, gods, right? Gods could be anything. What I mean? It doesn't, gods or whatever. So a god could be your car. God could be a bottle of liquor for some. It could be a drug for others. So you move beyond that word God, which is good. And you said aspects of nature or the higher aspects of self, right? So let's look at the law of correspondence. The aspect of me that exists on this particular plane, I use air to create or oxygen to create and destroy, right? I breathe it in. There's an anabolic and a catabolic process that, equates to metabolism. And that's what keeps me moving. No air, no life, right? Real simple. The air goes out my body, I'm done. So we see that air becomes a sustaining element here on the planet for life here on the planet. Oxygen becomes a sustaining element for the body. So if we look at the correspondence and we say, well, we have our human body, but then there's the aspect of the doppelganger. And if you look at the element of air, air becomes, again, metaphorically, air is synonymous with spirit because it's that unseen movement that underlines and represents that vital, but even sometimes limited, but that vital energy that brings things into being. So now if we look at the correspondence, because that's on this dimension, that's on this plane, right? And whether we want to call this plane weak or we want to call this plane strong, whatever, but there are certain laws that govern how things operate on this dimension, which are reflected outwards, which are mirrored and reverberated outwards through different planes of existence or different dimensions, right? So on this dimension, our bodies are sustained by oxygen. But then what about our corresponding bodies, right? So we have a corresponding body known as our soul essence, you see? So, and the soul essence is supposed to be the truer form of ourselves. And remember, in this environment, like I always tell you, the Most High negates itself in order to recreate itself. So we are a negated form of the Most High. Well, what's the Most High? Well, whatever the heck is Most High to you. However high you want to go, it's the Most High. You see. So we all have different, that's why I say there's millions of and billions maybe of creation stories. We can all have individual creation stories because we were all created out of different intention and different mentality. Some of us were created in the back seats of cars. Some of us were created, you know, in bed. Some of us were created on dining room tables. Some of us were created, you know, by strangers. Some of us were created through love. Some of us were created through the root chakra. Some of us were created through the crown chakra. Some of us were created through the heart chakra. You see? So there's many different creation stories in that sense, right? So that means we're living on based on those different creation stories, there's different most highs that we may have. There's different higher selves. Your higher self is not my higher self. Okay? Or the idea of it. So even when we're speaking about all of this spiritual information, we're a lot of it we have to, well, at least I try to keep it as generic, not generic, but as wide open as possible. I try to give you more templates, because if I do other than that, I'll box you in. So like I like what you just did when you defined, I'm gonna show you what Brother Hassan did. He said ether, then he put in parentheses nothingness, comma, prime slash first element, emptiness of space. So you see what he did? So he didn't box himself in by creating this dogmatic aspect of ether. When he said God, he said aspects of nature or the higher aspects of self. Cool. You see? So he's keeping it open in that sense, right? So if we look at again our reflected doppelganger, and the main one we speak about that's been revealed to us is the soul, or the reflection of the soul. Well, everything is going to have a complement. So just like here, we look at the earth element, right? But in the spirit world, what would the earth elements complement be? Excuse me, it would be the astral planes, right? That would be the complement to earth, what we stand on, what we go through what we pass through to transform. You want to look at it from a metaphorical perspective. We use earth to transform. If you don't touch the earth, you don't change. That's why we have the ʻthir ceremony when a child is born, which means to touch the earth. Sa is foot, ia is earth surface. So once now, okay, you've touched the earth. Now it's time for the changes to happen, for your work to begin. Before that, it was just all spiritual rhetoric. You know, you were just talking in the spiritual world. You weren't doing nothing. So now, but when we go to sleep at night, or when we meditate, or when we strive to astral project, we go to different realms in order to experience a level of change through knowledge acquisition. Those are called the astral planes, right? So you find that there's a complement to every earth element that you're going to find, whether it's a tree, whether it's a rock, a frog, a penguin. They're all emanations of something, and what we could call the Kashik, or the etheric, or rune, or heaven, or the fifth dimension. But they're all expressions from another dimension. You see, so when ether steps itself down, you see, because ether is the element that moves throughout the soul realm, just like wind does. So ether steps itself down to manifest the element that we know to be as wind. And now, what is one of the reasons why that happens? One, because if we're negated forms of our higher selves, then we have to have lesser forms of everything that our higher self utilizes in order to survive. You see? So if you have ether there, because ether is that beginning element that creates everything. Well, if you look at most spiritual traditions, they talk to you about air and wind, and how they're just being wind at one point, or just being air at one point, and the primacy of that air element. You see, or we say like God breathed the breath of life into the nostrils. So we see that air plays a very specific role in creation. But air, remember, you always want to look at the spirit that exists inside of something. Anything that manifests itself on the physical form, or the physical realm, or the third dimensional realm, is a step down version. It's a lie, essentially. It's an illusion. It's a step down version of what exists on a higher form. You see, just like no different than your computers, right? So if you create a digital character inside, or an avatar inside of your computer that looks like you, it's a step down version of you. You see, it's just a step down, right? So if we look at, for instance, let's see this way to explain it. So you and I are breathing air, right? Now, unless I'm talking to a robot, but you and I are breathing air, I think. Now, if we were to create and program a virtual world with avatars and so forth and so on, and we wanted to utilize, in order for us to really properly control those avatars, or to function through them, we would create a world that exists upon the same laws that this world exists upon. That's why when people create avatars or they draw pictures, they draw eyes and noses and nose and mouth and ears. And even though a picture doesn't need any of those things. A cartoon character doesn't need legs. A cartoon character doesn't need a nose. It doesn't need eyes, but we draw it with it anyway. You see, but then we'll maybe allow that cartoon character to do something that we can't do. You see, and through that, the cartoon character shows us some of what we may be capable of if we're able to bend rules here and there. But we're foundating their world based on the same principles that our world is foundated upon. Cartoon characters are going to walk from here to there. You see, they're going to speak when they want to communicate something. They're going to touch things with their hand and pick them up and things like that. You see? So it's the same thing when we look at our higher selves or our soul selves, and they look to create a world underneath them. They say, okay, well, we're going to create the world because there's a law of correspondence, as above, so below. We're going to create a reality based on our current reality, but this is a negated form. So their stuff is not going to be as strong as our stuff is. You see, like you may create in a virtual world, you may create water, but you're not going to really put water in the virtual world because why? It's going to kill the circuitry. They couldn't take it. You pour water inside of your computer because you created this virtual flower inside of your computer. So you pour water in the computer to make the flower grow. No, you're going to create virtual water. You see, or you're going to program that particular flower with AI, with artificial intelligence, so that it can grow. Artificial intelligence and the ability to process language and the process sound and the process tone is the oxygen of the virtual world, because this is what allows a program to build and destroy, you see, to maintain its own sentience and to move forward from there. That's all AI is. All AI is a step down version of ether, you see. So when we say that the gods breathe ether or our higher selves breathe ether, it's a correlation or a correspondence to us, and we could be gods too, right? Breathing air. We could be because you and I can breathe moist air. Here's an example. Now, if we were to create something, we were to create a like again a virtual program, we would look like the gods to those programs. We'd be their gods, right? Now, those programs can't breathe moist air because moisture wreaks havoc on circuitry. You see, whether it be your laptop, your phone, your computer, if you live in a moist environment, what happens is that water gets on the circuit boards inside and it fuses different wiring together. Just like if you used to pour water, on an electrical item in your house. So moisture does the same exact thing. So moisture would kill them. Well, it's said that ether would kill humans if they tried to breathe it. You see? So metaphorically, what it's saying is that essentially you can't live in that. It's not even metaphorically, it's also true. You can't live in that soul realm because the potency of the constituents that make up that realm are not built for your step down negated form. So even when we have spiritual experiences, we dodge. We go in for a couple of seconds, couple of minutes, then we come back out. Stay there too long. What happens? You go crazy. Because we're not built for the profundity and the intensities of the laws of that realm. You see, so that's what it represents. Just like you take somebody who's got a poor diet and you put them on a green fast for 7 days, what's going to happen? They're going to get sick. They're going to get sick. Their skin is going to break out. They're going to get pimples. They're going to get headaches. You know, sometimes if you detoxify too soon, you can make yourself sick. You see, if your form is that toxic, or like when you have people who are morbidly obese, they can't just go on a water fast. You see, because their bodies have been stepped down, distorted, negated, and made to live or trained to live in a less than environment. So now when you introduce something healthy, you might give them some some raw kale or some seaweed, you know, give them some nori wraps, and they'll throw it up. It's too strong for them. It's too strong for them to process. So you ease them and you give them transitional food. You see, so it's the same thing in terms of the relationship between the idea of ether and the idea of air. So all of these elements that we're experiencing on the earth realm, they mirror elements that exist on the spirit realm, you know, or on the soul realm. For instance, your experiences on the astral realm are a reflection of your experiences on the soul realm. It's a step down. It's just we just keep step down, step down, step down, step down, step down, step down. That's all. You know, that's why we're negated forms of those gods or those higher, I think you call them higher aspects of nature, or higher aspects of ourselves. We're step down forms of that. You know, if you think about your soul, right? What does your soul need to breathe? You don't worry about it. Probably you would probably think nothing. My soul doesn't breathe. But then why would it make you to breathe? Because remember, it uses word sound to create the world and the reality around it. Why would it create the reality to look like this unless it was a reflection of something else? In my book, Grasping the Root of Divine Power. Now, it's a shame when I got to paraphrase myself because I don't have the exact quote. I know that's sad, but there's a line in the book where I say something to the effect of the only way that you would be able to process a divinity or a god of any form is if inwardly you knew that you were actually that god. You see, like when a baby sees another human for the first time, why doesn't it flip out? It's been in the womb, it hasn't seen anyone. It's when it sees everyone, why doesn't, like, you know, if you and I saw an alien, you know, quote unquote, the way they show them in the movies, because we're all aliens anyway, but you know, if we saw a predator or something, we would go crazy because we wouldn't feel any although I would to predator because I see the locks and everything, but we wouldn't feel that affinity that's me that I'm looking at. We wouldn't feel that oneness there. When a child looks at us, it doesn't flip out because it sees, no, that's me. I'm looking at a reflection of myself. So ether is a reflection of air, as earth is a reflection of the astral, of the astral realm. You see. Then you have yin energy, you have yang energy, manifested through fire and water. You see. So this allows us as deities to come into this existence and not flip out because something about it seems very familiar. Why do babies know to breathe when they come out? Because they did breathe before with their other body, their very old body. They just breathed in something different. You see, it's just like if I pass you a glass of liquid, what do you know to do? You know to drink it. But is it water or is it quality water? Did it come out of the tap? Is it spring water? Is it alkaline water? Is it mineral water? Looks like water, but you might find out that, man, this came out of the tap. This is garbage. But it looked just like that pure stuff I had before. It's a step down negated form of that. You see. So that's the relationship there. If you're still unclear, just let me know. All right. I'm going through this list. And I answered it because you see what he did. He qualified his question. Mama Sadaka says, so does our individual interpretations / perceptions become / shape our realities? Yeah. Your reality is shaped by your perception. So when you're learning more, you're trying to expand the awareness of what you perceive. You want to be able to perceive more. The more you perceive, the more reality you experience. You see, some people drink wine and they just get drunk. Some people drink wine and they taste all these different complexities. Some people smoke a cigar and they just, it could be a black and mild, or it could be a Gurkha. It doesn't matter to them. It could be a Cuban cigar, or it could be a piece of crap. It could be a backwoods. But others will smoke it and they'll taste and feel the complexity of the cigar, and oh wow, there's some chocolate in there, and I'm tasting some cinnamon and this and that. So the more you perceive, the more it shapes and expands your reality. So individual interpretation and perception becomes important in that sense. Now, when you get closer to your soul reality and you start to perceive things through your soul element, then you start to see more, because you're looking at the truth of what is manifesting. You're looking at the truth of what's present. All right. So yes, answer to that. Mama Sadaka says, my son, when he was 4 years old, at 4 a.m., said, Mama, some people think that cars and their house is God, and some people think that trees are God, and those people are right. I asked, well, what makes them right? Because they believe it, because that's what they're thinking. Oh, I'm sorry, you gotta answer there. He said, whatever the Most High created is him also. Then he said, that just came to me. That's also true. That's also true. But some of those things the Most High did not create. That's the trick. Some things are not created through soul reflection. Some things are created through ego. So that they're actually just satanic earthbound elements. Remember, Satan is always going to seek, or Set, you use either one, doesn't matter. In the context of what I'm saying, it doesn't matter. Let me correct that. Set is always going to create a material form of the ethereal or the divine form of what the Most High creates. Now, the Most High's forms will condense into matter given time. Set is time, right? So if you give it enough time, it's going to condense into Set has an opportunity, or that Setian aspect. That's why Set is, again, Chronos. Chronos is chronology, is time, father time. So if you give any spiritual or soulful reflection element enough time, it will condense into a matter that we can see, right? But there's like a pass off. So as time comes, Set it'll pass off to Set. It's like it's like finding something in a lost and found. And say, well, heck, if nobody's gonna go, I'll take it. And then you make something out of it, you see. But you have to know that, well, if I'm perceiving it and it's physical, the Most High created something that gave birth to it. But this isn't the thing. Because let's look at the form of Obatala, for instance. Like I tell you often, Obatala doesn't touch the planet. So how is Obatala shaping your head? And which head is Obatala shaping? If you got a big head or a peanut head or a head shaped like a bazooka gun, is it because Obatala did that to you? No. That's a condensation of something. The spiritual or the consciousness is shaped by Obatala. That energy is not touching the planet. There's a pass off that happens after that. You see, so we have to. That's what I'm saying. Look at the laws and the concepts that exist under things. So yeah, by proxy, your son was right. Yeah, it came from the Most High, in that sense. But sometimes we get disillusioned, and we apply a level of unwarranted divinity to things that weren't really directly created by divinity, because there are other constituents that go into that creation. Because if Set or Chronos represents your mind, or your brain, or your physical thoughts, your attachments that your brain comes up with, then we know that there's a co-authoring process between your mind and the divine intention. How do we know that? Look at your children. What are they a product of? Initially, you know, could have been divine intention, but then as time, you know, transpires, what do? You start to use your mind and your brain in terms of the shaping and forming of them. You see, now that doesn't shape and form their soul. Soul is there. The soul is intact. You can't mess with that. You can't mess it up. Even if you try, can't mess it up. But what we perceive and what walks on the earth becomes a product of what you shape through your thoughts. Set. You see? And this happens over time. You see? So once we get here, it's a process of co-creating or co-authoring with the divine. That's why in so many creation stories, like I've shared before, you have fabric and cloth and weaving that's present. Because whenever you see fabric or cloth or weaving, okay, what's up? Spirit just walked in front of me. Sister looked like she's from the 70s or the 80s. She had on those jeans that you know, you women used to wear, them jeans that go way up past your belly button. The little bell bottoms, and she had on a shirt tucked in tight. Yeah, it looked like a 70s, 80s look, maybe even 60s. She just walked by. You know, that's what it's like when you got a shrine on your land, man. It becomes like it becomes like a train station. They're passing in and out. So yeah, like I was saying, so your youth was right in that perspective where it is a product of the Most High, but you know, just understand that, you know, like just like Obeah is not touching the earth, you know, you're dealing with the Most High there. There's a core that's shaped, and then once it gets here, we have the opportunity to tamper with it, just like we can tamper with our children. They start as divine, they start as pure, and then we, you know, over the course of time, we corrupt them with our ridiculous ideas. You know, let's see. Charlambo says, "Are we, as we are, the reflection of deity? Ether is to air." Yep, you got it. Or the shadow to the body. Yep, because the shadow is also a spirit, right? So again, step down, step down, step down, step down. And in each step down, there's different laws that apply. There's different rules that apply. You see, every time you do a step down. So in one world, you're breathing, another world, you're breathing air, and the other one you're using water, and you're extracting the oxygen out of the water. You see. All right, let's see. I think I saw some other stuff pop up. Yeah, like a 4-year-old trying to reason at 4 a.m. Hey, that's the best time. He said he was saying the tree was God, not the car and house, because they were created by the Most High, or because they were not created by the Most High. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, but still expressions of something, right? And this goes for people too, man. You know, this goes for people. Some people are not creations of the Most High. Some people are created solely out of materialism, or solely from the root. There was no soul put into their creation whatsoever. You know, and I know a lot of times we'll look at it and we'll say, everyone's a child of God. No, they ain't. Well, it depends on you, because your God is not my God. I don't even mess with God. Like, what is that? You know what I mean? I don't even really deal with that type of language. So am I a child of God? Nah, probably not. Probably not. I'm a child of something, but our perceptions of that God is, because like if you say God to me, I'm gonna say it, where the average person will say who or he. So we already know we're talking about two different things. We already know that just by the very language that we're using. So our perception of that Most High, it's just like children and a mother. Mommy's something different to each child. They're gonna some people, you know, I can't stand mommy. You know, then the other ones is I love mommy. Mommy's cool. No, mommy's strict. No, this, you know, so that there's gonna be a different interpretation, but we're all using the same word, mommy. You see, that's why I tell you a lot of times the words can kind of present a smoke screen in that sense. You want to get beyond the words, get underneath those words. That's what's more important than focusing on the words themselves. Get underneath them. What's the concept that's being presented? You see, and that's why I tell a lot of times when you guys are talking, man, stop trying to be so complicated. Stop using words that you think the conscious community wants to hear. You know, because you're not getting anywhere with that. The profundity is not in your ability to regurgitate what's seemingly complicated. The profundity is in your ability to cut through the BS, because this whole world is BS. This whole world is illusion. So your power and your profundity is your ability to cut through it and get to the center and core of what's actually being presented and said. That's what makes you a profound priest, you see, or a profound priestess, or awo. It's not you know, taking some simple complex concept and making it deep. Nah, I mean, come on, that's what's called annoying. That's just being annoying. I see people do that all the time, and they talk real fast. Sometimes they'll be saying something. I'm like, man, this dude ain't even saying anything. Nothing. Zero. I'll say 95% of the people I see online, that's the effect they have. You're not even talking about anything, but it's the way you say it. You see, you get hyped up, or you're just so smooth, or it's the clothes you wear. You know, it's all NLP. You know, Achilles says, Chief, does all melanin people have a soul? Nah, absolutely not. Absolutely not, because all people have melanin. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, I would say this to you, brother Achilles, and anyone else, because you know, I know it's a common question. Do you know what melanin is? You see, not just the color. Oh, it's our color. Nah, do you know what melanin actually is? You know, and I don't mean that like I'm not antagonizing you. I'm saying some of us base a lot of our theories around being melanoid. Like people will say melanated. That's not really the proper word to use. It's really melanoid. Like you have a Caucasoid person, you have a melanoid person, you know. But what is it? And according to Dr. Sebi, it doesn't even exist, if you want to go that route. But once you understand what it is, you realize everybody has melanin. Here's a simple thing right here. Real simple. Make it simple without you even having to get too deep. Melanin is in blood. Who's walking around here with no blood? Even a car has oil in it. And what is oil? The melanin of the planet. That's the planet's melanin. You see? So essentially, everything has melanin. Everything has melanin. Now, so I think I know the question you're asking, but I'm gonna let you ask it again. I think I know what you were, you know, trying to say. And before you even ask it again, I'm gonna say this: Moors, Black people, African people, are there soulless Moors, soulless Africans, soulless indigenous? Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You've heard me say it before. I know you don't like when I say it, but I've said it. There's no devil worse than a black devil. That's the worst devil to ever deal with. See, I've spent a lot of time on the continent, in all different places on the continent. I've dealt with some of the most wicked black devils you could ever imagine. Why do you think our people came over here with so many protection spells, so many rituals? You only need to do something when something is present. It's like when you go to a place and there's a sign that says no smoking. That's because somebody smoked there. If you have to come up with all these protection rituals and spells, and they're real powerful, that means somebody was doing something. You know, I know a lot of times we try to romanticize ourselves, but man, when you do that, you lose the power and the profundity that you can find in other cultures, man. So, am I saying that white people have souls? Yep, I am saying that. Do some white people And I'm using that term white loosely because there's black white people. That's what I'm saying. That color coding, man, y'all gotta be careful with that color coding. You know, be real careful with that because you'll confuse yourself like that. You know, you really will confuse yourself. Some of y'all are trick babies. You know what I mean? So it's like you may look white, but you're not. You know, classified. Your mama might have been black, but you're a trick baby. Your mama might have been a hoe, got knocked up by a John. You see, but you got blonde hair and blue eyes. But your mama's, you know, black as an ace of spades. So, you know, what I'm saying is that a lot of times we get confused, and some of that is a product of the conscious immaturity that goes around on the circuits and the immature and the networks, because it feeds into our immature, you know, lower nature. It feels good to stand up somewhere and say, man, F the cracker. And then the cracker, you tell the mother effing cracker to eat your mother effing. Yeah, okay, cool. I got you. After a while, man, that's a little corny, isn't it? Because you ain't talking to nobody like that. You know what I mean? You're only doing that in this little closed environment. You're not really banging, quote unquote, on the beast like that. So what happens is it starts to confuse us. You see, when you listen to enough of the rhetoric, you start to get confused, and it causes you not to really understand. Or, I mean, it doesn't take long. Genetics is not that complicated to study. Really understand what DNA is, what are genetics, you know, what is melanin. These are like basic things, because these words float around the conscious community so much. And sometimes I hear people talking about like DNA, and I'm like, oh my God, like I want to just say, like, you know, move over, man. Let me do it. Like, because you messing it all up, just throwing things in there that just, so it becomes all this abstract information, but it's not real. You know, remember, everything that's on the planet has the potential to transform. So something that's here that's soulless, does it have the potential to transform and go into another space? Yep. It's got melanin, it's got carbon, right? Yep. That means it has access. Now, some of us have access. Some of us, let's look at it like this. Some of us have backstage passes to life, and some of us don't. That's the soul versus the soulless. We all live in it, but you might be able to get with me, and I'll either give you a backstage pass or let you ride on mine. I'll show one pass and say, oh, she's cool or he's cool. They're with me. Now, if you can understand that analogy I just gave you, oh man, you'll learn why Obama was put in office. You'll learn a lot if you learn that analogy I just gave you. If you just think about it for a second and remove the whole whatever you think about what I'm saying. Chief said it, white people with soul. You know, I don't even want people like that listening to my shows. Be honest with you. I want thinkers. If you're a non-thinking person, I don't even want you around here. Yeah, now is it that certain souls express themselves to certain things as certain things, and certain groups of people have certain proclivities and tendencies? Absolutely, man. Come on, man. I mean, you can't avoid that. But it's also good to also understand history. You've heard me say 100 times, man. If I was a white dude, man, I'd be doing everything that white people are doing to keep black people down. I probably more. I wouldn't sympathize with black. I mean, crazy. It's about genetic survival, man. That's what it's about. And if I know that my origins were on a damn iceberg, you know, a block of ice, and there was no food, and you got these Africans over here dancing around, and these dudes got these penises down to their knees, and these women with these giant breasts and booties, and they're eating cooked meat, and I'm over here trying to get some food, and what I'm hunting chases me back up in the tree. Man, I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna scheme and figure out how to never go back to that place again. Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? Think about it. You know, just like when you look at Asian culture, man, you look at Asian movies, man, they never play themselves. Never. When they do their own films. Now, when, you know, other people may portray them as, you know, a certain way, with that whole chop suey and all that nonsense. Just like how they used to do Mexicans back in the days, with they had these big mustache and huge hat, and they would play them out, you know, the banditos, you know. But look at how Asians present themselves, man. Their past and their history, they always make it look so beautiful, man, and so dignified and so refined. And they did some foul stuff too. Don't forget about the Hittites. You know, don't forget about when they invaded Kemet, man, and put themselves on the walls of the temples, man. So I mean, they did us dirty too. But when they show their past, man, they show it in such a dignified manner. You know, it's about genetic survival. I'm not going to do something that's going to be detrimental to my own liberty or to I want my children to survive. I want my legacy to continue forward. So a lot of times the things that we're attributing to people having no soul, or we're attributing to genetics, we need to learn we need to learn to study the history of a people and attribute it to that. Why are we in the position that we're in? Why are we so wild acting? And I know we like to blame everything on slavery, but how did some of us, not all of us, but how did some of us get here? Why did some of us participate? And I know we like to use the excuse, well, because we didn't know how violent and gruesome slavery was. So that's why when we sold our people into it, you know, we didn't realize it was going to be as yes, we did, because it had already hit the continent before the Euros came. They weren't the first ones to do it. We knew what time it was. And we were world travelers, and they were free Africans who already lived on this soil. You don't think they were sitting and say, hey, man, you know what they doing over there? Better stop romanticizing. Then you can finally come into some real power, man. stop romanticizing. I'm not saying you, Achilles. I'm saying in general. You know, I'm a old man rant. All right, so let's see what else we have here. Anwar says, I was listening to a lecture from Dr. Valentine, and he spoke on the soulless and how they mimic the one with souls. Exactly. So they can elevate, and the soul needs to do what it needs to do to move to its nexus. Right. What do we do when we talking about Kemet and all this stuff? Man, you ain't built no damn pyramid. I bet most of you don't even know how to make concrete blocks, let alone a pyramid. You know. So what are we doing? We're doing the same thing, aren't we? We're emulating the steps and the movements and the rituals of those who have done greater works than us, so that way we can become those people. Remember, I told you it's just step down. It's just negations of yourself, going down, going down, going down until you get to mineral and plant life. You're going through the animal kingdom, the mineral plant, you know, you're going through every step. You see? So it's the same exact thing that we're doing. When you hear me sitting here speaking Yoruba, I'm not Nigerian, you know? Even though when I go, they always say, oh, yeah, you are. You Igbo. They always call me Igbo. You look like an Igbo man. No, I don't. Come on, man. But, you know, they always want you to feel like you in. You know, they try to find a space. Because it's like when I go to Ghana, they say, oh, you're definitely Ashanti. You're Ashanti. Because Ashantis are big and they're a little lighter. You know, I ain't no Ashanti. I'm not either one. You know, so so we're doing the same thing, man. We're doing the same thing. We're emulating the works of those. Now, you've had some people who have taken those same works and they have created religions from them. You look at Judaism, man. You see a supreme example of that, man, because you have everything covered. You know, in terms of what you put into your body, and how you marry, how you deal with your woman, how much your woman works, how you dress. There's so many different codes that are put in there so that you can come into your sane mind and elevate back. So people can sit from afar and look and say, I'm gonna write a religion based on how great I see this person is, you know, or these people are, I should say, you know. My It's the doctor says. Dr. Jewel Pookrum says that melanin can be injected. Yep. To cause ones to make a Caucasoid look like a heavily melanated person. Yeah. So we can never be sure who we are looking at or dealing with anyway. Yeah, but you could tell the difference, you know. But when I say white black people, I'm saying that some people that we classify as being white are not actually white because we're using color coding. And that's what's going to throw you off whenever you're using the color coding, you know. But the melanin piece, man, come on. You know, that a lot of times you guys are just, and I'm saying in general, people are looking at epidural melanin. They're just looking at the melanin in your skin. And it's saying, okay, that person's black or that person's not black based on their skin color. That is so off. You know, you don't want to do that. You're completely off the mark on that one. Just looking at epidural melanin, that's not going to work. Because why is it? Let me try this. Let me make it real easy. And I'm going to say this to the sisters, right? Because we all, you know, sisters a lot of times they protest when a brother seemingly steps outside of his race. What if I went to Cambodia and got myself a darker toned Asian woman? What would the sisters say? He sold out. But she's my color. Might be darker than me. He sold out. In fact, years ago, I was in what was that? I was in Tanzania, and I was building with this elder, and she had called me a white man, and I, you know, he's the elder, so I couldn't curse her out, but she was about to be all kind of bees and mother effers, and you know, that was years. That was because they do that a lot. I had to get used to it. I never got used to it, but I had to expect it sometimes. But anytime it happened, like I get in people's face, and because I speak different languages, I know the words that they're using to say white man, you know. And this particular elder, I put my arm next to her. I said, my arm is darker than yours. I'm darker than you. How am I a white man? You see, but that's because I'm basing it on the skin color. She's looking at me and she couldn't explain, or she's like, no, I mean, it's good. And she just was saying it matter of factly. It's good because you're a white man. That's good. That's good. And what it was is I had the aura of one, you know, because this is many years. We're going back to maybe mid-90s, right? So she's looking at me and I'm coming through. I got shorts on with Timberland boots, you know what I mean? and you know, a basketball jersey, you know, throwback jersey on, and you know, and just stomping through, giving people hard handshakes, you know, looking at people in the eye when I talk to them, because that's what I was taught to do, and give a firm handshake. Man, she like, you a white man. Because you have that energy on you, you see. Or some of the formalities I used to take, not realizing, thinking, well, this is how you're formal, and where I'm from, this is how we show respect to people. And they're looking at it like, nah, what are you doing? I'm over here crushing brothers' hands when I'm shaking their hands and all kind of stuff, and you know, voice talking all loud. And I'm not even a loud talker. I'm pretty quiet, but I was even louder than how they move, you know, because they're always listening to see where they should be. You know, it's almost like if any of you have ever spent time around jazz musicians, right? Jazz musicians are like, they're very quiet people because you're always listening to where your note is, or what your note sounds like, or what you should be in the moment, or where you should be in the moment. You see, there's not a whole lot of talking that goes on. So I say, like, you know, I'm a musician. My house is, I'm quiet. I always have music playing 24 hours a day, but talking, not that much talking. You know, I'm listening. Where am I supposed to be right now? Where am I supposed to stand? Where am I supposed to sit? What am I supposed to say? Am I supposed to say nothing? So when you go into an environment where it's like that, man, and there's no such thing as awkward silence. or awkward pauses, but you're not used to that. You know, you used to dominating people, and you know, your version of your idea of the alpha is based on a Western paradigm. Then people have all rights to look at you as suntanned and with my big shoulders and big lips and big nose and all the things that clearly make me, you know, clearly show that I'm Africoid, can look at me and say, "Oh, you're a white man." Oh, yeah, you're a white man. Oh, yeah, Baba. Hey, Baba, you're a white man. It's good. It's good. See, that's wisdom. You know, you got to learn that. So you could be as dark as a spare tire and go in certain places. They look at you like, man, you're a white man. It's your aura. If black is a state of consciousness, why can't white be? Now, I'm not saying, I'm not, you know, trust me, I'm not giving a pass for wiggers and all that stuff, and because I'm not into that. If you white man, embrace your culture, but learn about Thor and Aries and Mars, and you know, and embrace your stuff, man. Upside down crosses and stuff, and Ozzy Osbourne eating heads off of bats. Get into your stuff, you know, and we can you know, enjoy our things individually or collectively, but you know, you don't have to negate yourself or take away from yourself because maybe you're lighter toned or you're Caucasian or whatever. But a lot of times, I'm telling you, we classify it wrong. Just like I had to come into my blackness. Or you listen to Baba Fela. Fela Kuti said, man, he didn't realize he was an African until he left Africa. Went to California. He was building with that sister out there, and she put him up on the Black Panther Party. It was like, look, man, this is, you know, just the liberation movement. This is what we're doing. These are the changes that we're trying to affect. He was just, man, I'm Fela. I don't, you know, I didn't know how important it was to claim my identity. So what kind of vibration was he traveling with? Everything has the ability and the potential on this earth to transform itself. You can switch up your whole vibration, man. Your whole vibration. You can switch it up. All right, let's see. I know that's something that needs to probably be explained deeper, but I don't feel like it. Now, you know, some things, some talks are general talks, you know, because publicly people can behave very foolishly, and they'll take one or two words and they'll run with it. You see, so like me saying, yeah, I went to the continent, they call me, you know, say, you're a white man. Now, some will take that and say, yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. Africans don't like us. Africans, you know, that they'll get stupid with it. And that's not the case. It wasn't said in that way. It was said like almost as a compliment. You go to Ghana and say, oh, Obruni, Obruni. You know, like, no, don't call me no Obruni. Yeah, you are Obruni because you come from America. The land of America. There's the land of the Obruni, or they call it Obrunika. Obrunika, ka is like land. So Obrunika is land of the white man. So if you come from the land of the white man, they'll call you Obruni. Right? But how'd you even know I came from that? Man, I got on more traditional garments than you. Because I rock for most part, even here, a lot of traditional wear. Man, it's the way you moving. It's how hard. Look at all them deep footprints you left in the sand. We don't leave footprints like that. You know, we went to the market. We look at all them avocados you bought, all them mangoes you bought. You gonna eat all of that by yourself? Yeah, you're a white man. You're gluttonous. You know. So yeah, man. Let's see what else is up in the spot. Vivid Eye Publication says he walking with the culture of a white man. It's tough to get that off. Yep. And it's not the culture of a white man. It's the culture of Western. It's Western culture. You see, it's Western culture. Some of it is nigger culture, which is manufactured by Caucasian slave makers. You know, some of it is nigger culture, it's plantation culture, it's oppression culture, it's white supremacy, supposed white supremacy, racism, You see, there's so many different things that we've become, that have become bastardized into our spirits, because we're talking about spirit that we're giving off, not soul. The soul is cool. The soul is okay. We've taken on new and foreign spirits. So even when we translate Ogun, Oshun, or our traditional structures, we're still translating them like, I'll use y'all term, quote unquote, white people. We're still doing that because, like, that's why you hear me say all the time, you want to learn something, learn the language of that thing. If you don't learn the language, you ain't learning nothing anyway. Because just remember, language creates the perceptual framework. That's why I always tell you, don't make one thing another thing. So I may say, well, you have Oshun. Someone will say, oh, Oshun's just the goddess of love. Then another person will jump in and say, oh, you mean like Artemis? Oh, you mean like Athena? You mean like Venus? You mean like Aphrodite? No, like Oshun. It's different. You see? But when you learn the language, you say, well, let's look at Venus. Let's look at Aphrodite. In Oshun's very name, you have a reference to the wisdom of the menstrual cycle. But you wouldn't know that if you didn't speak the language. You also have a reference to the sun, to the moon. Osu. Or Su. Osu. So that right there takes us in a whole nother direction. Well, what is the moon in Yoruba culture? How is the moon viewed? How is the menses viewed? Because this is what we're saying when we're saying Oshun. We may not be saying that when we say Venus or Aphrodite or Lakshmi or Pravati, you see, or even Het Haru. When we're saying the house, Het Haru, Het is house, Haru. Het Haru is the house of light or the house of Haru. That's not the same thing as, saying, well, it kind of could be actually, but the reference to the menses or whatever, you know? Let's see. Miss Lene says, how do you feel about white people in the African traditions? Again, what's a white person? It goes back. I don't know if you heard what I said earlier. Are you saying Caucasians and African traditions? I don't really care. And that's a big shocker. The hammer just dropped, right? I don't care. Because let me tell you something. Most of you who talk about African traditions, you're not even in the African tradition. You're coming in just like the I'm saying you're mythical white person. You're coming in like a colonizer. What do a lot of people do? Go over to Nigeria, get initiated to do what? To come back here and be a priest. But what are you doing for Nigeria? Nothing. How many children are you sponsoring back home to send to school, or sponsoring their families, or sending, or giving them medicine for their nana, for the grandparents or the grandmother? None. You just went there, paid your little money. So it's just like going to Jamaica, going to hedonism, and renting yourself a roster for the week. You just going and taking. So when I hear people say that African tradition, first of all, there is no African tradition. You have traditions of different groups. You have Ashanti tradition, you have Fanti tradition, you have Igbo tradition. We could just go on and go on. You have Ewe tradition, you have Hausa tradition, Yoruba tradition, Maasai tradition. I mean, we could just keep it going. Zulu tradition. So can a Caucasian person totally absorb themselves and be Zulu? No. Nope. So when we say that they're in the tradition, we're perceiving it wrong. They may come there to learn about the traditions or even become Sangoma, right? But you are a Caucasian Sangoma. That's something different. It's like saying, I'm a black atheist, right? And I'm not trying to get on anybody. I know that you guys probably know about the person who carries that title. He calls himself a black atheist. I'm not talking about him in particular. I'm saying in general. You might say I'm a black atheist. Well, atheism is not a part of our cultural roots as melanoid people. So The moment I say I'm a black atheist, that means I'm dipping into something outside of my group, and I'm presenting my version of it, my form of it, because it's not really me. That's like me saying, that's a gorgeous black woman. Well, that's a redundant statement, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna give my people a little plug in this conversation. But I'm just saying that some things that we look at, like when we say, well, should you initiate white people in this, they're gonna have a different experience than you're gonna have based on the connection. But then you might also bring here, I'll give you an example. Somebody asked me a while ago, man. They were like, yo, would you deal with somebody who was interracial, and knowing that you're marrying into a family, of Caucasians, basically? And my answer was, depends on the family. I would rather, not that I don't marry anyway, but for the sake of the example, I'd rather be linked with some decent Caucasians than with some wild, harmful Negroes. I'm using those words purposely. I'm not saying black people. I'm saying Negroes. You see, because the Caucasians may leave you alone. They may shun you. They may say, "Oh, you don't marry that black guy. You're cut off. You might be cool. All right, that's perfect." Because what if she's conscious and she's doing the work and she's on point? Boom, 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 boom. But hey, at some point we got to get beyond the immaturity of it, man, and really look at our own communities, man, and look at what we need to go forward and to advance. And like I said, when I gave that example to the person, they looked at me funny. I said, well, just think about it. Think about some of the problems that come when you mess with and this is another guy I was talking to, when you mess with a ratchet woman. Straight, and I'm saying, I'm using extreme examples because you're giving me an extreme example. So I'm gonna give you an extreme example. Yeah, you say, nah, I'm gonna keep it amongst my own. Cool, no problem. Gotta have two black parents. Okay, no problem. I'm with you. What if the family though is just straight up ratchet? You going over the house, you come out and the freaking her little brother, man, got a screwdriver in your ignition, and try to hotwire your car, or the mom's is hitting you up, just going off, blacking out on you, or the you get into an argument with her and the uncles want to come and put guns in your face. You see? So stop and think for a second. What's best for our advancement? What's less damaging to our movement? Let's look at that. You know what I mean? So sometimes we have a very immature way of looking at things because we don't understand. Like I've heard people say, yeah, if you bring white people into your shrine, your Orisha will go away. They don't even know how it works, man. No, that's not gonna happen. Or if you bring gay people into your shrine, the Orisha go away. Come on, man. It's just stupid. So now because I come across a melanoid person and they're in same-sex relationships, now they're soulless. See, that's just you just not knowing how to deal with something. No, I don't agree with that. I have students that are that are living that sex style. I tell them, no, I don't agree with what you're doing. I don't promote that. I knew is a movement for, headed up by an alpha heterosexual melanoid man. So I present the model of what an Anu man is. All right. I'm not messing with no other man. I'm not into that business. But it doesn't mean that if somebody comes to learn because they want to better themselves, who am I to determine the state of sickness that allows you to come into the movement? Oh, you gay? Nah, I can't deal with that. Oh, wait, you an alcoholic? Okay, we'll take alcoholics. You on crack? Okay, we'll do crack. Meth? No, we don't do meth addicts. Come on, man. You got some healing, you bring it for everybody. You'd be surprised what happened next. And I'm not even saying this in terms of an expectation. I'm not. So those of you who are out there doing the sword fighting and sisters who licking each other up, whatever. But there have been a lot of people who have come under my teachings over the years who have disavowed those sex styles after learning, without me saying, yo, you need to stop that, you know, we need to build strong family. I ain't say none of that. Just kind of came to their own through learning about a healthier culture, saying, I don't think I want to do this anymore. This is not really where I want to be. Or I realized I was made this way. Somebody did this to me. I didn't initially want to be like this. You see, you don't get those opportunities when you approach it from an immature place, man. So I'm just saying, man, a lot of people, different people can be used. Never, ever negate the power of your egun and what they can come back as and who they can use. And if you want an example of that, look at the woman who saved the river in Osogbo. That's all I'm gonna say. The shrines, and kept the river clean, but who saved that whole shrine. You go do your own homework on that one. All right. Now let's see what else we got here. Chief Yuya is the first step of switching up our vibration, thinking new and different thought. Brother Byron, he said, oh, check that. I'm asking a question. I know the answer to. All right, well, that's that. Oh, you're gonna answer it. Mama Sadaka says, I had to look at the second part. It seems then it becomes more necessary to be a discerner of spirits and vibrations and observers of character and less focus on epidural melanin. Okay, I'm gonna stop filling up that chat room. No, it's okay. You fill up the chat room, sis. You got a lot of children, so you need a lot of information. All right, but yeah, it becomes, that's the immature revolutionaries approach. Now, does it mean you ignore your historical enemies? No. No. All right, so just understand what I'm saying and where I'm coming from. But I'm sure all of you are old enough and wise enough now to know not to embrace anyone blindly. I'm sure you have experienced enough in life by now to know that. Of any hue, of any culture, to just embrace them blind. There was a time years ago, when if you saw somebody with locks in their hair, you know that you knew the person was conscious on some level, whether they were Rasta or they're just dealing with certain information or whatever. As soon as you saw them, like, especially me, having locks and different things at a young age, I could give them that head nod or say peace. And I knew they were going to say peace back or give that head nod and assurance, like, yeah, we on the same vibe. We're vibing together. Now, come on, man. They don't even mean anything anymore. You see? Or what about the term hotep? Before you hear somebody say hotep, they were dealing with the deep. If they went underneath peace and said hotep, like, oh, so you know about hotep? You know about Kemet? Or they use the word Kemet instead of Egypt. Oh, you're working with something now. Now, what does it mean? You practically probably go to the other side of the street, somebody say hotep to you. So we have to learn to stop viewing the world as people without souls. Use that first eye vision. You'd be surprised what you see in there. Use the first eye vision. You looking at the like I said, man, everybody's got melanin. And some people who we classify as black ain't black. Some people we classify as white ain't white, because somebody gave us those divisions, just like how they went to the continent and put these dividing lines. This side will be Eritrea. This side will be Ethiopia. It's the same freaking people. This will be Somalia. It's the same doggone people. It's one land. But then we'll say, oh, sometimes take time and go to some of the Ethiopian groups and chats and listen to how they go at each other sometimes, Eritreans and Ethiopians. Oh, Eritrean women are ugly. Oh, Ethiopian women are whores. It's the same freaking people. They even look the same. Now, yeah, Eritreans sometimes look a little bit more Somalian, but they look the same. They're the same people. One is speaking Amharic and one is speaking Tigrinya. Similar language, both Semitic languages. So we've been divided in that sense. It goes back to the Willie Lynchism, and we've been told to classify people by the wrong set of standards. And at some point, we have to look at, man, it's hurting us. It's not working. I'll see somebody with locks, I can't automatically assume they're safe. You got cops with locks. Or here, if I see a cop who's melanoid, doesn't mean that I'm saying, oh, I'm safe. He or she is a cop, but they're melanoid. No, no cops are safe, in my opinion. Because the moment your sergeant gives you an order to do something against me that's unlawful, you're going to do it because you don't want to lose your job. So that means you're just as much of a problem as everybody else of any color. And I know we got some cops in the class, but that's where I'm at with it, man. Everybody's different, Let's see. Miss Lene is saying yes. Well, I don't know what you're saying yes to, but I hear a lot of people have issues with that. I guess you're talking about the white thing. I recently joined a Yoruba group on Facebook to learn more about it, and that's a major issue with some hate it and some embrace it. Yeah, and I tell you this, the majority of the people in that group probably have never even been in Nigeria. I used to be in some of them Facebook groups. Man, they talk about silly stuff, man. They don't even use the language right. Everything is ashe. Whatever you say, ashe. That's even how you say it. It's ashe. They don't even say it right. So, a lot of times you're circling around a lot of nonsense that's Western culture. Some made up nonsense that they're saying, well, this is what they do on the content. They don't even know. And then we start debating and arguing about it. The bottom line is about your access pass. You and I both, we all can go to a concert of whoever your favorite artist is, doesn't matter. It's about where you're able to sit in that stadium that determines the quality of the concert. And then if you're able to sit in a good spot and then go backstage and kick it with the people who are performing, that's a different thing. But we all can go to the concert, but we're not all going to walk away with the same experience. Now, if you can understand that, you'll understand why you should not trip over stuff like that. Facebook is just, it's a joke. Yes, Gloria, you can rent a roster. Wait, you can rent a roster for a week. Yes. It's your nasty self. Want to go to Jamaica now and rent a brother. Talk about the movie Get Out. Anwar says Negro come in all different states. Yep. As do deities. Let's see. Vivid Eye says that takes a certain level of detachment and objectivity. Well, isn't that what enlightenment is? Detachment and objectivity. That's when you're functioning from the soul perspective. You're detached and there's no judgment. That's hard though. And it's hard for some people to do it and not lose their cultural identity. It's difficult. You see, it's a difficult process for some. Like I could sit and have a conversation about metaphysics or something with a person of another culture or even another race, but man, I'm still a proud, African Zulu man, swinging long. You know what I mean? I tell you in a heartbeat. And I don't have a problem saying that in front of people of other cultures and groups because I'm clearly invested in my culture and I'm proud of my culture. You see, I'm proud of our accomplishments. You see, but that doesn't mean that another group can't be proud of their accomplishments and what they've been able to do. And okay, let's discuss it. Doesn't mean that we can't learn something from one another as well. Also, still very much in tune to who my historical enemy has been. Oh, I think my screen messed up, so I wonder if my all right, I don't know what that is. Oh, I had a little crash here. That's what it is, I guess. Did I? Yep. All right, so we'll just leave the slideshow off. Doesn't matter anyway. And we're getting ready to close out in a couple minutes. All right, so Charles Lumbos asked, "Did you say the women of Asabo?" No, I said the shrines of Osogbo. How do you spell it? Nope, I don't do that. Osogbo. You can work it out. Yeah. Anwar says, when I had locks, everyone wanted to know where the weeds at. Yeah, get that a lot. And on the continent. Yeah, Mama Sadaka, exactly. Like Haitians and Dominicans, same freaking people. You know. Brother Byron says, in both Eritrean and Ethiopian sisters are generally beautiful women, but a little too slim for my liking. Well, it come in all sizes, Brother Byron. I've enjoyed sisters from both regions for some years, and yeah, they have different selections to choose from. But a lot of times when the ones come over to the States or to the West, they get into the modeling, so they have to slim out to fit that Euro aesthetic, the aesthetic of looking like a 8-year-old boy. Um, Brother Charles Lombo says the conscious community teaches that European melanin is calcified. If that's true, can they still access the first eye? No, the conscious community doesn't teach that European melanin is calcified. They teach that the European first eye, the pineal, is calcified. It's different, So, but they not that it's calcified, it's still active, but by time we die, we all have a level of calcification on our pineal. But they say usually people who are melanoid have maybe about 15% calcification, whereas a Caucasoid may have like 75 to 80% calcification. But either way, it's still being utilized. So, yeah, they're accessing the first eye too. And that's what's said. That's what's said. Sometimes we got to be careful. I'm gonna say this too, man. We got to be careful about how we pick and choose what we want to agree with. Sometimes we'll take certain things, from a scientific perspective, and we'll say, well, science says this, this one's calcified or not. But then we'll say, but they be lying. They be lying. So it's like, you can't pick and choose what you want to take and what you don't. Sometimes you got to learn to do the research, and especially, like I always say, comparative research. Do that comparative research for yourself. That's the key. All right. Let me see. Chief, you can give you some guidance. I don't know what. Okay, I guess y'all are having a conversation about something. Miss Lene says, yeah, I'm trying to see where to begin being the different one in the family who's not afraid of the occult. Well, students should be able to tell you where to begin at this point, because I've given that guidance so many times. Where do I begin? So at least if they care, if they care to, they should be able to give you that guidance. Oh, my screen share isn't working. All right. Anyway, let's see. Any more questions? Anwar, all dysfunction in the conscious community has now come to the surface like a zit. They're all speaking against each other now. That's how you know it was never a community. I've been telling you that for years. There is no conscious community. It's just conscious networks. People have become professional YouTube fundraisers, professional YouTube lecturers. Yeah, it's easy to be a lecturer on YouTube because ain't nobody got to hire you. That's why when people see me like video, I have a lot of audio, not video so much of me speaking. People are shocked, like, oh, you actually go do? Yeah, still do. It's just not everything I speak on is about spirituality. So I don't share all those videos. I do lectures and stuff, on a lot of different topics, but out in the world. But a lot of people, they don't come from that perspective, so it's not real if you're not touching anything, if you're not going out and really engaging the people with any real type of thing, man. I don't want to get on into that, but dudes are soft, man. That's bottom line, man. These dudes are soft. Conscious community, quote unquote, it's soft. Some of them try to present themselves like they're super street or super gangster, or just super intellectual. Man, they all just cornballs. At the end of the day, they're cornballs, man. You know, again, if you used consciousness to make yourself cool, to try to reinvent yourself, give yourself an identity, then you're going to be acting stupid like they're acting. I tell y'all all the time, I was cool before this. And the stuff that I did was way cooler than what I'm doing right now. I'm over here talking to a bunch of people who I can't even hear you on the internet in the middle of the day. You know what I mean? That's not cool to me. And the props that you get from it are not cool to me. But for some people, they were complete social misfits before they were able to get on YouTube and start running their mouths. You know, so man, y'all got to be able to use that first eye, man, and see what's what. It always saddens me. Sometimes I see little comments in the chats where you guys are referencing different teachers and stuff, and I don't say anything because, you know, I'm not going to speak against my people in public. But some of the people that you guys are even referencing are garbage, and it speaks to your own character. Because if you can't see it yourself, then I'm looking at, well, something's wrong with you. What are you looking at these people with? What eye are you using? You know, when you're looking at an obvious crook or someone who's just, they don't even have to talk. Can't you read the spirit? You know, we read the spirit of people through text messages. You know, the person that just, you'll say something, the person respond okay, you'll get offended. No, but I know what kind of okay that was. I know what that meant. Why can't you do it through the internet where you can hear people's voices and see their body movements and see how insincere they are? I don't know, man. It's a sad commentary. You know, I think some people need to put their cell phones down, man, because those electromagnetic waves, those EMFs from your cell phone is interrupting your ability to telepathically feel people. Remember when you used to know someone was coming by your house? I had a feeling he was gonna stop by today. I had a dream about you. You run into him in the supermarket. Doesn't happen that much anymore, you notice? Because you're constantly having that first eye, those first eye projections, that intake and that outtake, that bi-directional communication with nature. You're constantly having it interrupted because you keep digital devices around you all the time. Some people go to sleep with their phone in the bed, playing music or whatever. Some people shower in the morning with their phone in the shower, playing music or whatever. They're at work looking at it every 5 seconds. Constant disruption. Lene says everyone else is so worried about going to hell, and when I tell them about the visions I get, they tell me it's the enemy, but when they come true, I have demons. Maybe you do have demons. Go find out what a demon is. That's all. Find out what a demon is. Sometimes our family will tell them the truth, tell us the truth. My family always want the pastor to come bless me because I tell them I hear voices or my transition ancestors visit me. I'm told it's all demonic. Yeah, it probably is. Find out what a demon is. Vivid Eye says, Miss Lene, you are good. Many are so afraid of the spirituality inherent to us. Well, they've been traumatized out of it, man. They still have fear stemming from the Spanish Inquisitions. You know, they're still, you know, you got people still tuck their leques in. Like we're on plantations and somebody's going to look at your leques. What are you doing? You know? People still afraid to buy candles out of dollar stores. You go to the dollar store to buy a candle to put on your shrine. People still hide in the candles when they get to the counter. So the strongest prison that they have is in their own mind. You know. Let's see. Vivid Eye says it's important to study and discern from who these voices may be coming from. Mm-hmm. Sure. Myron says, I'd rather go to sleep with a woman than a phone. I mean, my wife than a phone. Right. Right. Well, people do go to sleep with their spouses and they have the phone. They're both on their phone. Both got blue lights in their face. You know, that's the Western gods. That's the allegiance to the Western gods. You know, I remember, I mean, I'm used to it now, but going back to the continent again, one of the first times I was out there, because I went back to back, like first time I went. So I'm saying first times because I couldn't get enough, man. I got off the plane in New York and turned right back around. And just hit a bunch of different countries, at once. But I remember one time one of my friends out there kind of making a little, I guess it was their little inside joke, because I used to always carry a bottle of water. And he was like, "Oh yes, yes, Haru. Uh, I know you. We were getting ready to leave to go somewhere. We were going out into the bush actually. And he was, and it wasn't that far from where we were but maybe a mile. And I was like, "Oh, let me grab my water." And he was like, "Yeah." And then he was looking at everyone else around us, saying, "Yeah, I know you need your water, Haru. You got to get your water." And I mean, I peeped the energy, like, okay, I see what you're saying. I get it. Like, yeah, look at this weak white man. They're not gonna say that. He's got to carry water everywhere with him. Because I'm just used to needing water, but I didn't really need the water. I'm used to it now, but coming with those fears, and it is dry there, it is dusty, at least the region that I was at that time, because I've been all around the continent, but dry and dusty, and I'm just used to when you're out in the heat, grab some water, but you don't really need that much water if you're not eating a bunch of food that's dehydrating you all the time. So if you didn't wake up and eat pancakes and biscuits, then you don't need any water. You're not drying yourself out. But it was just, again, it was just interesting kind of looking at that in terms of, some of the traditions that we take on and that we bring into a healthy environment. So even when we're in a good place, sometimes we're still bringing the nonsense with us. And something as small as that. And when he cracked the joke, and he said it in like kind of under his breath, but the other brothers were there, were like, they kind of scoffed and was like, huh. Like, okay, so this is something y'all talked about, me and the water, because it was so foreign to them. Like, why are you carrying this water with you all the time? Well, for one, because I can't drink the water y'all drink. But then I guess, yeah, I really don't really need the water, So Justin says, LMAO, I used to hide the candles. Now I don't care. See, exactly, right? What are you hiding the candles for? Nobody cares. Nobody cares about what you're doing. You got people who open botanicas. So it's out now, you know. Mother Byron says the red African soil chief and that heat coming up from the land. Yeah, it is brutal, but you know what? You learn how to move properly after a while. Maybe you shouldn't be wearing jeans. There's a certain time to go out. There's a reason why everybody wakes up at 4 a.m. and gets most of their, or not all of their work done by 9 a.m. Because the sun's coming down strong by 10. You don't want to be outside. Only thing that you see outside of the goats, but you don't want to be out there. And then around, 4 or 5 o'clock, things cool off. You come back outside. But if you don't know that and you're moving with a different culture, and I mean, I spent a lot of time in the Caribbean, a lot. But that African environment is different depending on where I've been up and down the continent. So, some places it's cold, but some places it's just the kind of heat is different. Or the kind of dust from that red clay is different when it starts to get all in your throat and in your eyes and stuff like that. But essentially, you get to a point where you say, well, it is just red clay dirt. This is good stuff to eat. When I was a child, my grandmother used to give us the red clay dirt to chew on. She'd say, make your teeth white. So we used to literally chew soil, me and my family members, So you get back into your environment and you realize, man, now, wait a minute, what am I doing? What am I doing? I'm over here acting silly. I'll be all right. Because my body will adjust to this. Because this is my place. This is my home. This is my environment. Even with all of the hybrid, DNA that I have in me. put me back in my natural environment, I'll become that thing again. You see? Even coming back here, man, it's difficult sometimes to even get my tongue wrapped around certain words because I'm over there for so long when I go. Then I got to come back in and speak this kind of English. Because when I'm here, I can speak fast English because you all understand me. Over there, if I do speak English, I have to say things slow and I'll throw other words in. And I prefer to do it that way because you end up using less words, less curse on the tongue. All right, so we're getting out of here. I'll be back tomorrow morning, Friday, 7 a.m. All right, and I don't see any other questions in the chat. If I missed your question, just put it in a comment of the video, and we'll go from there. And hopefully, Gloria, you will not try to hit up Jamaica and get a rent a dread. There's single brothers in our new, and there's polygynous brothers in our new. So get to it, have at it. All right. So I will speak to you all first thing tomorrow morning and get the day started properly and move forward with strength. All right. So doodlehouse.com. Peace.